I'm Drew Breasy, and this is the Comm Center, the show that dissects 911 emergency response video and audio by two guys who have done both jobs. Coming up, this year's Pittsburgh defense is going to include a phone in between the Will and the Sam linebackers. John is going to take us on a tour of the theater of horrors, commonly known as his break room refrigerator. And we're going to review a case from Phoenix where the suspect thinks he's hidden in a household appliance, but he ends up getting shot like a fish in a barrel. All that and what it means for your weekend on the Comm Center.
City council members have announced their plan to disband the Minneapolis Police Department.
We're calling for defunding the police.
Shootings in New York City have more than doubled this year.
Wake up, America. It's the Comm Center with Drew Breasy. It's a TV show on the internet about two best friends who investigate a big tech company who are trying to cover up the crash of one of their new experimental weather balloons, blaming extraterrestrials for the accident, only to learn that the stock is tanked anyway because who the fuck wants to buy weather balloons? It's me, John. I'm an active 911 dispatcher in the field. I've been doing this for 9 years now. I'm joined, as always, by Lieutenant Andrew Baxter, formerly of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Bureau, who spent many years there investigating crime and also leading and being a 911 dispatcher. I'm here to give you the best, most thoughtful, and physically animated reactions to video and things going on in the world. Before we go down that path, it's time for us to catch up as friends because the court is determined we are not to contact each other under any other circumstances. Drew, my old friend and my old enemy, how are you?
I'm great. We got in a lot of trouble for bantering back and forth on in the YouTube comments. And when I say a lot of trouble, I mean one fucking random guy from whoever just didn't understand the concept. One of
Sizzle 9786. F you. We'll do what you want to do.
Take both of your subscribers with you. So I think it's probably a common complaint, but also like John, I always kind of think in the back of my mind very arrogantly, well, let me know how your podcast is going because I'll come watch it. And if that's how it's supposed to be done, then I'll do it.
Honestly, I felt the same way too, because so many people have gotten on there and even on the network where they sit there and they get in the comments section and they complain that I exist. And it's just like, well, do you want less to listen to and watch? Because this is all a team effort. And I guess, no one twisted your arm. And case in point, if you don't know how the algorithm works, folks, if you leave a comment saying you hate me or hate us at the Comm Center, that just helps. So if you sit there and you're watching long enough to actually feel anything and register that feeling on the internet, thank you. You have helped us. And of course, our goal is to reply to you in a way in which provokes further outrage so that we can have even more comments. So
yeah, I actually had a very long conversation with somebody. I don't want to call her my therapist because that would be admitting that I'm in some type of therapy, but it was my therapist. And I was telling her like the dog chasing the tail of my life. That is, it takes engagement to get engagement, right? So just like you're saying, John, when somebody sends a very nasty message about get to the point, because the title of your video says 2 homicides or whatever, and you guys are talking about suicide and people in Maine. The fact that they took the time to write that comment actually is engagement. And
did they actually write that they're unhappy that we talked about your trip to Maine and we followed up on a previous episode?
Well, a lot of that is me filling in the blanks, John.
Okay,
that's what dispatchers do. And that's what I give.
That's true, dispatch. But it's just like we do have a long form program here in which you and I communicate about different things, and we have a dedicated audience that wants to check in with us every week and kind of shoot the shit with us.
Yeah.
If you're interested in just seeing two people blown away on the internet, just type that in, and I'm sure that video will just come up, and you can even just hover over the thumbnail and watch it. You don't even have to click on it anymore.
Well, I'll tell you, that's where we got the video. You know what I mean? So if you just want to watch it, you can Google it yourself. But they also, the other thing is too, like I've started creating chapters. So to make it easier for people to skip over our meaningless yet free banter.
Yes. Well,
just
there's that, but we've also bifurcated the entire show, right? Like you and I have a full show, and then because not one fucking person in a whole year would ever call in to say one meaningful thing about the case we're presenting.
Yes.
Now there's an after show because people before were saying like, well, we don't want to interrupt you. Like, well, this is a call-in show, so not interrupting us when we say call us at 848 Comm 911 848-266-6911.
Nice.
You understand that's not us telling you a phone number. That's you being invited to a party.
Yes,
Now, as someone who doesn't understand being invited, because it doesn't happen to me very much, we do want you to call in. Our phone number, of course, is 848 Comm 911. That's 848 Comm 911. Do call us. We would appreciate that. Also, if you're watching us right now on YouTube, we appreciate it. If you're just listening, for the love of God, Drew and I are so handsome that alone is worth going and clicking on the YouTube.
Yeah.
Drew's a bit of a silver fox, and I'm a brown fox, or whatever it is you would say. We're also on Rumble. If you're listening to us on Apple, thank you. Please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Maybe if I remember, Drew, I will read one of those reviews because we have no good voicemails to play. Spotify is always good, of course. If you're not on our Facebook group, you're definitely missing out on our party. Go over there. Instagram, of course, you could follow us at the Comm Center. And if you wanted to reach out to either one of us to issue your complaints in a more direct fashion, you could, of course, do that. What Say Drew and Difficult to Look At Pictures is where you can handle us. That thing's just going to keep going. Comm Center at the bottom for the rest of the screen. Dewey is off. I believe he is at a Will Smith concert right now, or some sort of Will Smith event. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, he met Will Smith a couple weekends ago, I think.
He did meet Will Smith, and that was a story that really blew this podcast out of the water. But Drew, last week we wanted to cover something out of Pittsburgh, and then I did not do that. I forgot about it. So why don't I go ahead and read from the old local newspaper there in Pittsburgh. Of course, this is called the Pittsburgh Post and Gazette. That's right. The Pittsburgh Post and the Pittsburgh Gazette, due to low subscriber numbers, have been forced to merge. Drew, I wanted to get your take on this because you're an interesting fellow. And what I like about you is that you don't just think what media tells you to think.
How dare I? No,
you get like this critical thinking thing. You have this bizarre thing where like the news will tell you what's happening, and then like you go through a whole decision process about how you think and feel about it after. It's really bizarre. Takes a long time. You usually have to lay down. A cold compress is applied. This comes from the Pittsburgh Post and Gazette. This is the headline: 2024 will look much different than 2023. I know that it sounds like a time travel movie or something's going on here, but let's actually dive into it. Numerous changes are coming to Pittsburgh police. Working fewer days and dedicated 1 hour a week to fucking around are among the changes effective Monday. It actually says 1 hour a week dedicated to wellness time, which for me, that's how I get well again, is by doing the things that I want to do, which you could, in a work ethic sense, you could classify as fucking around. This is by Laura Esposito. Multiple changes in the way Pittsburgh police officials handle officers' well-being and approach gun violence and community-orienting policing were announced on Friday. So that's their big three initiatives that they're working on: officer well-being, gun violence, and community-oriented policing. I would say officer well-being is very important. It's part of the reason why we're here. Gun violence can only be approached with a greater amount of gun violence. So I went ahead and solved that for you, Pittsburgh. And then community-orienting policing, I don't know. Drew's I guess I'm just one of those. I just believe that a cop should be in a police car his entire career and never get out of the car and talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Officers will be moved to 4 10-hour shifts with 1 hour of wellness time granted each week to be used at their own discretion in an effort to make the Bureau, quote, a place where people seek to work, not depart. I guess that means they've lost a lot of people. That, according to Police Chief Larry Sirotto, an Italian guy, I guess. I started out by saying 2024 will look much more different than 2023 at the top of the headline of this article. This is a commitment to fill that obligation, the chief said. The schedule shift is designed to enhance officer wellness, a key pillar in the chief's priority for the Bureau. In addition to revised work schedule, the Bureau is making other adjustments that the chief said will place primary focus on areas of concern and two more of Chief's most valued initiatives, reducing gun violence and community-oriented policing. I do have to say, Drew, when you're a police officer, it's the same as when you're a correctional officer. You can't save the whole world and correct every single problem. You can only choose your battles and dedicate your time and energy and resources to the things that you can affect the most. Does it sound so far, although I haven't gotten into what he's going to do, does it sound like you're on the chief's side so far, or are you suspicious of his motives?
Well, unfortunately, I know the end of the story. The rub always comes with the citizenry and also the cops who are just because the chief is saying it, it's obviously not going to work.
Okay, I'm going to continue towards the rub. I just wanted to remind people that you have not left the building. The chief acknowledges the changes that may concern some residents as resources shift, but some said decisions on where patrol resources should be dedicated, zone sizes, and work hours were all heavily influenced by data. Every decision I make creates a liability for me, he said, but I'll be on a plane by this time tomorrow, you chumps.
I'll be in Bermuda.
He did not say that last part. Will there be some that don't like it? Certainly. But the decisions we make will impact this bureau and this city in a much better way than we have in the past. He has nothing to lose since he apparently replaced the last chief of police, and someone else will replace him. If you think about it, nothing in life really matters, so why not? Mayor Ed Gainey expressed some support for Chief Soroto's new initiatives and said he fully supports them. These changes will make extra differences. So let's break down these changes, Drew. I know that you're sick of waiting.
Go for it.
52 extra days off a year, which would be great. Unfortunately, it's also 52 days off a year in which police are not protecting anyone. The chief said the new schedule wasn't easy to do, but it was the right thing to do.
Hold on. Stop. We got to take it frame by frame. So rewind. Because you say 52. Is it 52 extra weeks off a year or
52 extra weeks off a year?
No, 52.
Guess what, guys? You are off for 2024.
So wait, let me do this math though. It's 52 hours extra a year, right? Because they're getting an hour per week.
I don't know yet. It says 52 extra days off a year, which seems like a ridiculous amount. I think what they're meaning is that you work more hours in a day, but then you have more days where you're physically not at work. Is what it is.
Right. So that comes from the day shift. I'm sorry. That comes from the number of shifts in the 10-hour shift schedule, which they will also get an hour per, I guess, week.
Yeah, so they have 39 hours that they need to be working, I guess, is what they're working.
Well, no, it's 4 10-hour days, so therefore it would be 40.
Yeah, but then one of those hours is for dedicated fuck around time.
Yeah, I wonder how they work that though, John. I mean, seriously, I wonder if they have a 41-hour schedule, but they're only required to be there for 4 10-hour days.
It's confusing. Do you resent me calling it fuck around time as someone who's like dedicating his whole life to improving the profession?
No, I'm sure that's how everybody views it. But I'm sure some of the officers are going to fuck around. That would be the point, though. This is the point is to kind of get all of this kind of back under control. And I don't want to jump too far ahead, but this like moving the pieces on the board also creates it does free up some time to do other things like catch your breath or not respond to bullshit calls or
have a cup of coffee,
be with your family, go to the gym,
sleep with a coworker.
Yeah. Head to the pub, which I don't suggest, but
however you manage stress positively or negatively, you're going to have more time to do it. I mean, smoking. This could be an extra pack and a half a year, Drew.
Easily.
Could be good for the economy. I am doing a great job reading it if you want me to continue.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. It's important for my officers to be at home to reset and be emotionally involved in the lives of their children 1 more hour per week.
Yeah.
Officers will now have 52 days more off a year. In recent years, an increasing number of law enforcement agencies such as Golden, Colorado, San Diego, Seattle, St. Louis, Honolulu have moved to a 3 and 4 day weekly schedule. Studies show Changes like 4 10-hour shifts each week can result in improved morale and reduced overtime costs. I'm going to tell you, Drew, I would love a 4-day work week because I have to drive 40 miles one way to get to work. So the financial benefits for me would be tangible immediately.
Well,
I can
financial and from a calming standpoint, you wouldn't have like. I'm telling you that when I moved from having to work like on the other side of town, it would take me like 40 minutes to get to my office and about an hour and 10, hour and 20 to get home. It's a significant difference when your office is only 10 minutes away, or you don't have like there's one whole day you don't have to go to your office. You don't realize how much time, like, look, now that there's a podcast like ours out there, I think everybody probably wants to drive the maximum amount so they can be in the car to listen to us.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work for everybody. So in your case too, I think, part of your sanity is being chipped away every time you have to put that car from driving to from parking.
I'm an unusual case. I do like to drive. I do
too.
I don't have to deal with traffic is the main difference, Drew. When I leave at midnight, I don't see another car than those
Traffic is
entire
bad.
40 miles.
Yeah.
Also, I just watched 3 full episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on my way home. Don't ask how I get that done. Anyway, the Pittsburgh Fraternal Order of Police's union president, Bob Schwartzwelder, is still listed in NCIC as a missing person, so he is unable to comment on the ongoing changes going on there. The schedule shift isn't the only change officials are hoping will maximize police efficiency. And I think this is kind of where we're getting in to my area of expertise. The chiefs announced that the launch of an online reporting, a new telephone reporting unit, which sounds like a cool futuristic thing from the 80s, right? The police telephone reporting unit.
Yeah.
This will be operational between 0700 and 0300. So it's like there's only like 4 hours a day.
Yeah, 0300, 0700. You had it backwards.
I just read it the way that the Post Gazette put it.
Sorry, dude.
That's okay. The unit will be assigned cases from dispatch that do not require an in-person response from officers. I would say lots of our cases don't require an in-response thing. And whenever that happens as an M1 dispatcher, I usually try to tell the caller, like, a police officer will get in touch with you by phone or in person. I always try to give them the option. And if it's clearly a baloney call, I let the officer, the deputy know, I let them know that you would be calling them. That way, if they choose to physically go over there and talk to the guy, they can. But I kind of already give them that out, which they could exercise anyway. But I think it's just good customer service to tell people that their bullshit complaint may be resolved by telephone call only. They said this is the most sending an officer to every 911 caller might not be the most efficient way to use our resources. Now pause on that one, because I take a lot of baloney calls that usually come in on the admin lines. Yeah, I take some baloney stuff that comes in on 911. It usually starts out with, I don't know what number to call. I'm like, well, not this one, and you have access to more information now than any human being in the history of civilization, but there's obviously no way for you to figure that out. Did you want me to Google the number for you, or the non-emergency number, and read it to you so you can write that down, hang up, and then call me back, and then I will answer the same fucking phone? I've always wanted to do that. My boss says, no, he says, just take care of people. But some 911 calls are baloney. Some people do just hit 911 for no reason. They'll dial 911 because they're lazy or irresponsible, or like when you tell them it's for emergencies only, they don't understand that the problem isn't an emergency. Like someone panhandling and slowing down traffic, they view that as an emergency because it's emergent to them. To me, that's not an emergency, and that's not necessarily something I need to send a police officer to, because we have no ordinance against it. There's no law for them to enforce.
Well, like you say, though, also it's not urgent. Like, there are traffic hazards and such that.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a mattress out on the interstate, you could dial 911 for that. I don't care,
Yeah.
Anyway, approximately 170,000 calls for service are received by dispatch each year, which is more than what I receive, believe it or not. The chief said it's estimated that more than 100,000 of those calls will now go to a telephone or online reporting, including incidents ranging from theft, criminal mischief, and harassment. It's true. And unless something's in progress or just occurred, a lot of the time, the difference between our response between 5 minutes and 20 minutes really doesn't matter. Like if someone took your stuff an hour ago or a day ago, just depending on the outcome of that investigation, it may not matter exactly when we get started. Now, if something's in progress, or just occurred, we may have someone fleeing from the scene, in which case we've got to get somebody there right away. So it really depends on that, just how recently, whatever it is you're dialing 911, or if it's just an emergent situation like the mattress on the interstate, like that. It sounds like baloney to the common person, but it's like if a car hits that, like that's a problem.
No, that's huge. Yeah.
Clear and present problem. So it sounds like I was being silly or something, but that does happen. So going from call to call can't help our officers be part of the community they serve. That's true. If they're just locked up, just completely just going from call for service to call for service all day, no one ever interacts with them unless it's official contact. There were 740 police officers in February. Public safety officials said that's down from 835. Drew, what's the percentage of decrease on that? I know you're just really good at doing numbers. So if you go from 835 to 740, you've lost 95, which is like less than 10% because, of the numbers. So is that a lot? I just hate it when they throw out numbers and then it's good that they give you two numbers to compare. Like that's the sign of a good article, but like they don't show you like how often are they normally, around 9 or 10% below full capacity. It just makes you wonder.
That's the problem. You have to tend to the denominator in any case. And that's why I'm kind of anti looking at stats in an article, because they can manipulate you into thinking with a big number here and a small number here that it's effective, and it's not.
I'm against statistics unless they're clearly well done. I want to see statistics in an article by someone who got at least an A in intro to statistics. When you see people just throwing around numbers and you're like, well, that number doesn't mean anything because, what's the average number of police officers on duty? What's the budget for? The article continues that the city traditionally has a budget for 900 officers. So for me, if they were at 835, that means they're under. That means they're just, they're in a hiring phase. If they're down to 740, that could just mean a lot of people have retired since 2020. Could be that they have a hiring problem.
No, it could be the attrition rate for that department. It could be 9 or 10% attrition rate. I mean,
but I get that it's a huge deficit just in actual numbers of people between 740 and 900, but I don't. There's no way that Pittsburgh, they're budgeted for 900 officers, but they never have 900, right? Unless the only way they would achieve that is by overhiring. So I know we're getting lost in the weeds of numbers here, but I just hate it when I see numbers in an article that's supposed to make me think or feel something when it's not really well thought out. We'll go on. Yeah. Public Safety Director Lee Schmidt agreed that the telephone unit will give officers more time to spend with the people they serve. It gives them an opportunity to get out of the car and engage with people. I think we all think that's generally an okay idea. I mean, there's some officers that I wouldn't want them to talk to another human being. Mr. Schmidt said that the system will also give officers a better life balance and make it less likely they will need to work longer hours and answer calls that aren't necessarily police matters. Here's the thing, Drew, police work doesn't look like this. How often did you have it where you're not punching out on time as a police officer? You know why? Because something terrible happens the last hour of your shift and you just have to stay. And this extra hour that you're blessed with will go right down the toilet to dealing with that, because they're not going to give you, if you're already working over because the department's short on manpower and you're already having to stay late because you need to work on a report, or you're just actually still at the scene of a crime, they're not going to give you that 1 hour fuck around time back later saying, oh yeah, you're still supposed to be fucking around at some point this week. So make sure you take some time to do that. Not only that, but you're not going to want to do that. Suppose you've already worked 45 hours. They're not going to, I guess your fuck around time is just go home. But
I think that
you're getting screwed out of it anytime where you have to work more than the number of hours you're supposed to work, right?
No, I think that there's remedy for that. It's either, I don't want to say mandatory
or what?
What's that?
Like that hour goes into a bank any week where you work overtime so that you just can use 2 the next week, or like eventually it becomes a full day off, or what?
No, in that 40-hour period, there's got to be an hour somewhere that you get downtime. So I don't know how it's structured. Okay, I mean, it could be like
you're essentially saying flex out that time later is what you're saying.
It could be an hour the next day that you come in later or whatever. But I mean, there has to be remedies built in for just that occasion, because it sounds to me like, and again, just because the police chief says it, like most of the meathead cops are like against it, but
they do hate the brass,
because you're required to hate the brass. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You can only do what dumb people on the internet tell you to do. But the thing is, like, I know that Pittsburgh went through a whole Manning study. Like they did a whole they've done a whole study. And so when he's saying he's working off of data and numbers, he's taking the calls for service between this hour and this hour, or he's commissioning it to making sure somebody's looking into it. And I think there's going to be like between 26 and 50 on the midnight shift, which, might make the midnight shift guys a little bit more nervous, but they're not going to be responding to anything but in progress calls.
Yeah.
So between the hours of 3 a.m. and 7 a.m., they looked, and I doubt that the streets rolled up, but between 3 and 7, most of the work was proactive. So now maybe you do lose a little bit here and there of finding burglars, or maybe that's when, so the argument could be made like, okay, well, now the criminals are going to operate between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. But is that true? Because now you have a midnight shift who has a little bit more free time to be able to do proactive work and pull people over and get into these neighborhoods. And, it's all a gamble. And that's why the chief, rightly says, look, every decision I make or every order I give, the liability is on me. And he's basically saying, trust me, I'm your police chief. And this is the way I see fit to run this department right now. And this is the decision I'm making. And it's not like he kicked his feet up and just threw a dart at a board and said, okay, well, let's go to 410s and give them an hour off, and we'll cut the midnight shift, and we'll just put phones at the districts instead of people at the districts. And I think it's all done with purpose. He's beefing up his anti-gun squads, not anti-gun, but like gun violence squads. Anti-gun is definitely a dirty word, but it's gun violence. He's going to focus on the gun violence, which can be done during the day with the, detectives and proactive units. He's beefing up the community policing units, which is community engagement, which is yet another way to get the community involved to doing their own policing. If you look at the Colleen Noir YouTube video on this, he's a very pro gun guy. He's a very 2A guy. And he's like, look, I thought this was going to be a, like, let's bash the Pittsburgh police. It wasn't. He's just basically saying, look, they have every right to say what they're going to say and do what they're going to do. They're not going to be there for you. That's why he's pro Second Amendment. And why are we so reliant on the police? Like, I get, okay, you pay your taxes, but for what? Like, you pay your taxes to call 911 at 3:15 in the morning because your neighbor's still having a loud party and you don't have the balls to go over there and knock on the door and tell them to shut up. That's you need a law enforcement officer to do that. That's a neighborhood issue. That's a neighborhood problem. If it turns into a disturbance, that's a law enforcement problem. So we have become way too dependent on law enforcement, and people don't want us there. Yet when we're saying, well, we're not going to be there because we did the studies and we did the math, and there's a more cost-effective way to run this, they say, well, for God's sakes, why aren't you going to be there? Like,
I have a quick question for you, just as a lieutenant. If we're managing our workflow so that stuff doesn't have to be responded to right now, like we're basically moving things around between officers. Generally, the feeling is when you're a police officer, and you'll have to correct me if it's not this way everywhere, Drew, but it's like you get your work done while you're on duty, right? And so anytime you're handing something off, you didn't get something done that's pending, to another shift, is it going to breed resentment at all that, like, you're starting a shift and you saw that the other officers who were on duty had this easy or irritating thing to take care of and they didn't? Is that gonna, do you think that,
no.
Am I way off base here, or?
A little bit, because listen, the agency I worked at, and I saw the numbers when we were getting ready to do this back in, I think it was 2020. We went to an online reporting system. We modeled after, I think it was Denver or Golden or somewhere out in Colorado that you just mentioned, as a matter of fact. And the calls for service were evaluated for what we respond to versus what we need to respond to. There are plenty of things that can be taken over the phone. I mean, just for instance, the general public doesn't understand how many times people call just because they need a case number for their insurance company. And it puts them into like a bind because they kind of have to lie to us about why they're calling, and they don't want us there sprinkling fingerprint powder all over their brand new Tesla. They want the stupid case number. So why can't you just, unless it's like a serial crime or a violent crime of some sort, why can't you just call in over the phone and have somebody either return your phone call or, better yet, automate it so that you check boxes, and that if it doesn't meet the criteria of reporting it over the internet or reporting it over the phone, then you have an officer come out. It's just a way of vetting, the calls that are coming in. It obviously, if it's immediate, no one is saying that Pittsburgh is abandoning their 911 center between the hours of 3 and 7. If there's an emergency, they're going to send you somebody. If there's an in-progress call, they're going to send you somebody. But it's a way to refocus resources that were probably not being efficiently used on the midnight shift.
We already have something like that here. And when I say here, I don't mean my agency. I mean that big city that I live near, but I used to live in, but I didn't work for it. I had it one time where somebody slashed my tires. I don't know why. Probably because I was a romantic threat to them is what my guess would be. But I had to call that in. And sure enough, it wasn't an automated system because this was a few years ago, but it was just a desk police officer that I gave it to. And they're just like, yeah, just to be honest, there's probably not much we could do. I'm like, okay, sounds good. End of report. Nothing came of that. There's no action taken. And it was just one of those ones where I spoke to a cop, so I, as a citizen, felt better. I knew that really nothing was going to come of it. It was technically a crime. But, I called them, and they were able to just, I don't remember if they called me back or whatever, but they were able to just manage the stuff that just happens in a city. And I didn't think it was any kind of big deal. I think what we're talking about is Pittsburgh going to a modified or, bigger version of that. So what's the problem? Why are, is it just because it's a change and we can't allow change of any kind?
Yeah, but it's also being sold by the media, not by the people in the article that you just read, because that's a very different take on it. But if you look online at some of the other, even the law enforcement sites are selling this as basically that Pittsburgh police are so understaffed, they're going to quit responding to your calls.
Oh, yeah. Well, why though? Because that's clickbait though. It just sells. It sells newspapers.
Yeah. It's fear porn, and I'm telling you, we're getting dumber. And I'm telling you, and I promise you, even cops are getting dumber at falling for this bullshit. And here's why I say that, John. I'm about to get heated here.
Drew's going full auto, everyone. Buckle up.
And we'll get to our case if you're leaving negative comments about. Just get to the title. Look, there have been 2 or 3 instances this week alone, and I fall for it every time. This is why I was having the discussion with my therapist, where I start defending a police officer for one reason or another, and it's generally not the reason everybody thinks, right? This is the same thing that I fell into with Uvalde, where I'm like, hey, everyone just slow down and let's take a look at what actually happened. And people still haven't taken a look at what actually happened. They just go with what the news tells them. So 99% of the time, they don't believe the news. But that 1%, when it has to do with the cops, even the cops are like, yeah, that was bad. So yeah, we're horrible. We're dumb. We're that's a bad move. You're undermining law enforcement without giving it the full critical thinking that it deserves, right? So there were 2 or 3 instances this week where I've engaged in arguments over social media, which I should not do. But here's where this comes from, John, and this is a form of therapy for me. All I wanted to do when I retired was to advocate for the cops that are on the street, 1, and 2, I just want to be there to protect people, because I didn't necessarily always have a protector myself. Okay, so that's why I do this show. That's why I argue with people over the internet. Now, what I find most surprising is, and here's where it came from. It was like the Daily Caller. The Daily Caller did a post where they showed a woman police officer, a black woman police officer in New York City, who gets bopped in the back of the head, and her partner is standing next to her, and the guy that bops her in the back of the head starts fighting with her partner. She removes herself from the situation, feels her head, and puts her hand on her gun like she was stunned in this whole thing. And what they framed it as is woman police officer flees fight to fix her weave. All right, so everyone is making the argument that we're not racist. We're not racist. That is probably the most fucking racist thing I've ever heard.
That
First
is
of
kind
all,
of, yeah.
it's horrible. And second of all, I did this long like response to it. Like, I see nothing wrong with what this woman did because she was hit from the blind side, first of all. Second of all, she wasn't necessarily just fixing her weave. She had just been hit in the back of the head, by the way, with a bottle.
That hurts. That's not like in the movies where it just shatters and they get up again. If someone hits you with a bottle, particularly if it's full, you're down for the count, man. This is not like a movie. Keep going.
So she puts her hand on her gun because that's what you do for handgun retention purposes. If you're about to black out, fall down, get pepper sprayed, put that hand on that gun. If you don't know if there's
another assailant behind you because she got taken by surprise, you have no idea what the hell's going on now. Yeah.
So all she did was separate herself from the threat. Meanwhile, this guy is having to fight her. Fight the guy, and I get that part. I get the how it looks part. But the problem is Daily Caller cuts the clip right at that point. So in total, there are 4 to 5 seconds of clip, and everybody has an opinion on this lady because they framed it as she fled the fight to fix her weave.
Yeah, which we all know is ridiculous. If you get hit by a bottle, like you're the way that you look is the last thing you're looking for. At that high school I grew up, Drew, I would see women fight and their weaves would come off all the time. A weave could be used as a weapon.
Yeah,
let's not forget that she might have been trying to use. People go so sick of cops going straight to the guns. Maybe she wanted to use another less than lethal option. She wanted to employ something else there to resolve the situation without one more dead kid in the street. Daily Caller's not saying that. I'm going to tell you, folks, right now why you could trust Comm Center. We not only do we not edit the video, we don't take out the parts that you don't need to see or the parts we don't want you to say. We don't even know how to edit it.
Right. We have no clue. We have no idea what we're doing. So the thing is, like, I'm telling you, the most intense arguments I had were with other cops who are saying, how are you defending this coward? And I'm like, how are you calling her a fucking coward? How are you not seeing what I'm seeing? Like, I get that she removed her. I get that she's not in the fight right now. It's not saying that she didn't get back into the fight. And are you like, half of them I just wanted to say, which I didn't think of until after, like, are you just pro bashing cops in the head with a bottle all of a sudden? Just because it's a black female and she has a weave and, and this stupid, like, fucking Steven Crowder mentality of like cops, women don't belong in law enforcement.
That's where I was going with it next.
Hate that.
Anytime I was going there with it next. I'm glad that you got it because this is Drew's full auto. But anytime a female police officer faces a problem that a man faces in law enforcement, like, for example, being hit with a bottle and being discombobulated afterwards or whatever, every time a female police officer has to deal with a problem that a man does, and the female struggling to overcome that problem or whatever it is, you'll get some fucking asshole in the comment section. This is why women shouldn't be police officers. It's like, okay, so if that had happened to a man and he had lost his hat and he was like trying to figure out what was going on or whatever, like, then it would be fine. But what it is, Drew, is they're bullshit woke policies. But what it also is their inherent latent sexism, because they don't want a female police officer to be their zone partner. They don't, for whatever reason, their own inadequacies. It could be the women showing them up, but they would prefer that women not be in the police department.
Well, the other part of it too, John, is that it's all of a sudden now everything is a DEI hire, or a DEI, or what's the not like
affirmative action.
Yeah, like an affirmative action hire, which is dumb. No, she's a fucking police officer. First of all, and then I always get this argument like, oh yeah, I don't need to just blindly support a police officer just because I'm a police officer. And my response to that is, well, no, you don't when they're wrong, but the fuck you don't when they may be right, because the rest of society is doing that for you already. Yeah. Why don't you just take the extra 10 seconds and give her the fucking benefit of the doubt?
I'll tell you why, but it's because of the same reason everyone dogpiled on the Uvalde thing and the female officer from Tennessee, Laverne, Tennessee, or whatever it is because it's the easiest thing to do to
It's lazy.
agree with everyone, to not take a brave stance and say, I disagree or I see it a different way. The easiest thing and the most cowardly thing to do is say, I agree with everyone else. Just throwing in with everyone else, trying to gather some of the common clout, the popular thinking, and try to apply that for yourself. Everyone says that, oh, this happened and everyone's against that. I'm against that too. So that means I stand for you. That means I should get your clicks, your likes, and your follows. But it's playground psychology. This is exactly how we all behave at the slides and at the swings, and we never grew up. And now we're just monetizing that through podcasts like this one.
Yes.
And that's why you'll see, well, I know, but at least I'm against everybody. Last night I told a police officer, defund the police. I at least said that to a cop. But I'm against everything. I'm even pro actual flames when it comes to fire departments, right? So but my point is that they want that wave of outrage, and they want to have that be behind them so that they can be seen as a front or face for that outrage, so that people will get behind them.
I think also, though, John, that there is this wave of they want to show that we as cops are righteous also, and that we don't just have this thin blue line where we protect each other and all this other stuff. So they take the low-hanging fruit and throw the low-hanging fruit to the wolves, like the acorn guy,
I was gonna say him,
like the weave lady, she got hit in the head with a fucking bottle. Are you kidding me? Or even the acorn guy, and I talk about this ad nauseum, but we're in a state right now where we have to be that fucking paranoid. And your issue is with the acorn guy, not with society fucking, the God rest the soul of the New Mexico state trooper who was called to the interstate for a disabled motorist. The disabled motorist driver walks to the passenger side of the car. They have a very pleasant conversation, and the guy takes out a gun and fucking shoots that trooper right in the head or the face. Mm-hmm. Then he goes around to the driver's side and finishes the fucking trooper off. Then he steals the trooper's car. This is 2020 fucking 4. Mm-hmm. That's what police officers are facing. People are getting shot left and right. They're getting killed. And we're outpacing 2023 for officers shot, which don't make the news like officers being killed, which understandably. But the thing is, when something like this happens, you can't take it as an opportunity to fucking pile on this poor lady who got a bottle upside the head. Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, there's not only that, there's, sometimes the best you can owe a fellow police officer is your silence, right? So if you cannot support, shooting back at acorns, if you cannot support a police officer who seems to be chasing after the weave during a fight, if you can't support that, how about you just shut your mouth? Because tons of people are gonna see that, they're gonna think exactly what you're thinking, and they're gonna open their mouth. So sometimes the best professional courtesy that you could offer your fellow police officer is just to say nothing. And how about this? The ultimate way to fix it is to just have some goddamn empathy, because someday you police officer who are ragging on female cops or jumping because a walnut has fallen onto a trampoline, someday something stupid is going to happen to you, and your face and your family is going to be on CNN, and you're going to be a laughing stock, and you're going to turn in your police certification, and you're going to become a truck driver, and you're going to be a joke for a year. And how will you want to be treated then? And I don't get why you don't have more empathy, because every single day you put on that uniform and you put on that vest and you go out into your community and you have no idea what the hell is going to happen to you. You are 8 or 10 or 12 or 39 hours away from being on CNN yourself. So again, just have some empathy, and maybe when something stupid or awful happens, just close your mouth. I don't think that's too much to ask, to just have you not fucking say something. Everybody's got an opinion. Here I am right now. I'm having my opinion right now. God damn it. But I'll just don't say anything. When I have to listen to 911 calls and I hear a 911 call go badly, sometimes the best I can do is just say, I wouldn't have handled it that way, or I say nothing at all. Right. Because for me to pile on and say, yeah, dispatchers are fucking idiots, this is why they're fucking secretaries and they don't have good retirement, what good does that do me? and what does it do the profession to dogpile on? You realize every time you as a police officer shits on another police officer, you're shitting on yourself and you're shitting on everyone, because we in the public, we
Yes.
civilians, we see you as all the
You're
same.
watching.
To
Yes.
me, there's no difference between a sheriff's deputy, a cop, park ranger. You're all the same fucking thing to me. So you shit on each other, you're shitting on yourself. Drew, that's John's full auto.
John's full auto. We look, before we move on, we're going to move on. We've beat this horse dead.
I know we're at 45 minutes already.
I just want to say, I put this on my Instagram if you saw it. Some of today's cops whine incessantly when they, quote, aren't backed up by admin. Like they're like, oh, the admin won't back me up. But they vigorously defend their position, and they'll call another cop a coward after seeing a 4-second clip somewhere just to protect their own ego. So when somebody like me calls them out, and by the way, when I said, you know, I've always wanted to protect her, and because I didn't necessarily always have somebody to protect me like this, I've been waiting 30 years to tell people to go fuck themselves. I
remember when you launched Drew Breezy's Unhinged. Do you remember that?
Uncuffed. It was stolen from me. So, but at any hoot, at any rate, I am in, you know, I'm going to single out my Marine friends who a lot of them I have a ton of respect for. It just does seem to me, though, that a lot of these people that are engaged in these arguments that refuse to think or see any other side of an argument other than violence are Marines. Like, they are just like, no, you're fucking crazy. Thank God you retired. You're horrible. You're this and you're that. And I'm like, okay, so this is what blows me away. Like, you whine like little C words when somebody like me won't stick up for you as an administrator. And when somebody like me as a retired administrator sticks up for all cops, you argue with me like a little C word.
Yeah.
That's what I think of fucking Marines right now. Now, there are some great Marines in this world. There was some of my closest friends.
Marines blood in the chats. We're not against you.
No, we're definitely not him. And what's the other guy? You know who I'm talking about, but I'm thinking of his name. I haven't seen him in a while, but
I think just to more properly address it, we hate the general Marines unthinking machismo that, you know, and I understand once a Marine, always a Marine. Semper Fi, but the way that they apply it is sometimes in a very thoughtless
way. I think
way.
that they are. It's not their fault. I think that they are conditioned. Well, just like you say, once a Marine, always a Marine. That's exactly what you just said. But I think they are also conditioned to. There's a violent way out of this, and we're going to establish dominance because we're fucking Marines, and they apply that to everything in life. Just like that stupid fucking Columbus cop. Like it's just like it's all or nothing. Like, think about what he was criticizing me for. He was criticizing me for standing up for another officer, telling everyone to chill out. That's what he was criticizing me for. That's what I have the problem with, John. Like, I've been waiting 30 years to tell people.
I can't believe you did two.
It's over the top. That was definitely over the top. So then I just want to say this. At the time of this recording, 4 officers shot in the last 3 days. 1 officer shot every 23 hours. 378 officers shot in 2023, which is a record high. 2024 is already outpacing 2023. There were 12 officers shot this month. It's only the 18th of the month, maybe 19th. 7 line of duty deaths in January, 15 line of duty deaths in February of 2024, 4 line of duty deaths in March already. So that's what, a total of 26 for the month or for the year for 2024. Don't tell me she's a coward because she got hit in the fucking back of the head. She thought she got shot in the back of the head. She thought she got stabbed in the back of the head. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt for getting a fucking bottle up the back in the back of her head. And yes, I will fucking defend her with my last breath. And if it's shown that she didn't get back in the fight, okay, retrain her. But the thing is, she was stunned. And then you get a whole other faction of people who are like, well, she should have never had her back to the crowd. And she's in fucking New York City. There's like 10 million
crowd
people
everywhere. Yeah, this isn't, you know, being a police officer there is not the same as wherever you are. I think a lot of times those differences gets neglected. But overall, she has enough critics. She might as well have one person defending her, Drew. And that's where you come in.
Thank you.
Did you want me to finish out this article from Pittsburgh, or are we so far away that I shouldn't even
mad.
go back?
I'm mad. I think we're too far away. I think we got the point across. And
All right. Well, next week, folks, you're going to find out what's happening in Pittsburgh with 911. Stay
Part 2.
tuned. Part 2.
Well, if you want to, I mean, if there's something 911 related, I thought that we did kind of cover though that
we did. Well, there's this thing about blue phones, and I don't know what's going on with that. So we'll cover the blue phones next week.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to cover the case that we have, probably a lot quicker than normal. I'm sorry it didn't match the title. I'm sorry what we talked about didn't match the title.
Just change the title, Drew. They don't know they've been bamboozled. They didn't know what they were getting in for. You were here for something else, and you never got it. You never will.
John and Drew rant.
You got what you got, and you should be thankful.
Yeah, sorry about all that free content. So what we'll do is, if I can find the right format, we'll go to the story. There is a gleeful, proud moment for a dispatcher that we're going to play first.
Do you want me to flapjack? Because I do have an ad to read.
I'll go for it.
Be ready for everything with County Comm. Now, this is distinguishable from Comm Center. It's very confusing. County Comm has everything you need to prepare, explore, and survive. Go to countycomm.com and check out their online store. Everything for your everyday carry. Powerful flashlights. Flashlights that will make the sun jealous of them. Utility knives, multi-tools, camping tools, radios that you can use to let everyone know around you how bad you are using the radio. But now you could do it and not be paid for it. Mechanical watches, compasses, lighters, and fire starter kits, bags, pouches, capsules, wallets. If you need it to survive when you're roughing it, if you need it for when you're camping, or you just don't want to be caught unprepared like some kind of jabroni in your regular daily life, you can find it at County Comm. You can trust them because they've been in business over 30 years. They offer fast returns and exchanges. You can get free domestic shipping on a big order, anything over $125. They'll just send it out to you for free. Sign up for special deals in their awesome rewards program while you're there. countycomm.com. That's county, C-O-M-M, just like the comm at commcenter.com. And you can follow them on Instagram, countycomm_gov. You can check out their awesome products and deals while you're there. My thanks to County Comm because they have given me some money to read this to you. We appreciate actually being monetized, supported by somebody. They do have handy stuff over there. If you do want to make your life a little bit better by having something with you that you need, go over there. Everybody likes the prepared guy. Everybody wants to be that guy, so you can do that with County Comm. Guys, there's women everywhere. You never want to look like an idiot in front of a woman. Go over to County Comm and get something handy that you're going to need so you don't look stupid later. True.
Yeah, let's not look stupid. Huh?
He's got it now.
All right, here we go. Oh, let me turn that down just a little bit.
My most memorable call is actually one that came in on our non-emergency line. It was one of the first calls I got for the shift that I came in for. I was working as a dispatcher with the Phoenix Police Department, and it was from a lady. She said that she was homeless and living on the streets. She told me that she knew somebody from the streets by the name of Chill. She said she wasn't necessarily friends with him, but she knew him from being on the streets with her. She told me that he was going around telling people that he had killed the guy that he was living with inside of the guy's own house.
But I did hear, them talking right outside. He's like, yeah, I stabbed that dude and, have him all plasticked up. And he was asking people outside about coagulation with the blood. And, yeah.
She told me that the name of the guy that Chill was saying that he killed was named Kenneth. I pulled up the address and I saw that we had history of going out there. So when I looked into the call, I believe we had gone out there on probably 3 check welfares prior to the call that I had got. They were all saying similar things as to what this lady was saying, but they were coming in from different people. As dispatchers, we're trained to pay attention to the way that people talk, and everything that this lady was telling me, I truly believe something else was going on. I even called the supervisor after I took that call, and I was like, hey, just so you guys know, we've gone out here a few times prior for similar calls with people saying the same thing, and I really think something else might be going on. Eventually that led to the brother making a missing report and Adult Protective Services getting involved. Officers eventually went out there and were able to get into the house, where they did find Kenneth cut up and deceased in his house. Exactly how the lady had told me it had happened. Detectives were able to arrest Chill and charge him for that. Detectives ended up going out to the pawn shop to recover items that Chill had pawned off, and they were able to find a chainsaw. When detectives went out there and found it, they found human flesh, torn ligaments, and other DNA inside of that. This is my job as a dispatcher with the Phoenix Police Department. We're trained very well to pay attention to the details and really listen to what your caller is telling you. Without that training, I think there could have been stuff that was maybe missed. And I'm glad that we have the training that we do, because it enabled me to maybe piece the puzzle together a little bit. So officers were able to capture the suspect and bring him to justice, so he wasn't out there on the streets maybe causing harm to other people.
All right, that's not the whole case that we're doing. The case is coming up here in a second, but that was a pretty cool call, I thought. I mean, this 911 dispatcher put 2 and 2 together and solved a murder, basically. And it's just like you solving the murder a couple of weeks ago we talked about. I mean, I think a lot of that goes unnoticed, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I like that story. Just goes to show you that if you're going to chain somebody, you got to go over that thing with a toothbrush, really clean that out real good.
A fine-tooth comb, yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually is what a chainsaw is.
Wow, I'm really learning a lot today.
Yeah.
What else do we got?
This comes from the Phoenix Police Department. Also, it's a critical incident briefing. And we edited.
Oh, it's been edited. So now you guys will never know what really happened.
Right. And just so you'll know, some of the firearm and less lethal shots have been replaced by human voice.
Fair. I like it.
Which was effective, according to your new friend, Randy, I think his name is. From the after show.
Of Bell Road and the I-17 freeway, when Phoenix police were sent to the area to investigate a report of an aggravated assault. A security guard made the 911 call and said he was working nearby and recognized a man that was banned from the property he was guarding. When he got out of his car to talk to him, he noticed the man had a gun. The security guard said he got back in his car and saw the man point the gun at him and walk away. The security guard started to follow him and called police. Here's the 911 call placed by the security guard.
Phoenix 911, where is your emergency?
Redacted.
What is the emergency?
I need an officer to assist me with this person who pointed his firearm at me.
Okay. What is the name of the business or the property that you're at there?
Redacted.
Are you on security guards there?
Yes.
And this person pointed a gun at you, or what did they point at you?
Yeah, he pointed his pistol at me.
The suspect with the gun continued to walk to a parking lot of a nearby hotel where he came across someone he knew who was in a U-Haul truck. He verbally attacked his male acquaintance, pistol whipped him, pointing a gun at the man's head, and pistol whipped him again. The suspect then went into the hotel. Here's the radio traffic of Phoenix police being dispatched to the initial assault on the security guard.
First traffic at 245 with a gun at 932B. The reference at 245 call, they're saying that he possibly pointed the gun again and now at a U-Haul driver.
Officers arrived at the hotel and began looking for the suspect. As they were inside the hotel, they started to get information from a sergeant watching security cameras. The following is radio traffic communication between the officers on scene.
He's running through the north stairwell.
Anything on north stairwell? Running the north stairwell.
Anyone Bravo, be advised. Gun in his right hand, pointing down the hallway. Gun in right hand, pointing down the hallway. It's still in stairwell, gun in right hand. I cannot tell if it's real or not. Cell phone in left hand.
All right, I wanted to make a note. I made a note here. I cannot tell if it's real or not.
I just forgot that I'm supposed to be reacting to this thing. This is a 911 dispatcher. Like, while I was like listening, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm actually on a show. Can I have some reactions?
Oh, please do.
First of all, I want to say, Drew, like, I've always appreciated you having me on the show, and this is a dream come true. And I also want to verbally pistol whip you because I tried to bring this case to you well over a year ago, and you said this is the lowest common denominator. This is fodder. Only when our show is on its last dying breath will we present this case.
Well, That would explain why I went to my last dying breath folder.
No, only it's only partially true. No, I guess I appreciate the security guard. I appreciate that he was able to tell that it was a pistol. I'm sorry that somebody got pistol whipped. That's gotta hurt. But that it helps to know that it's a pistol because we know now better how we can approach the scene. You've discussed this before, Abby, that a long gun, could, if it's a rifle, that would change the way that we respond compared to a pistol. A shotgun also has more limited range, but it's something you need to be aware of, particularly if you're going to be crawling around inside a hotel looking for this guy. And what was the last thing I needed to think about or talk about, Drew? You know what it was. Oh, that the guy's smart enough to realize that he's got a phone in his left hand and a gun in the other. How many times have we had bad shoots based off of I saw something in his hand, I thought it was a gun, and it turns out to be a Bible, or like a picture of the guy's widow.
Right, it turns out to be a bassinet with a child in it.
It turns out to be but in his right hand he was just holding a bassinet with a newborn in it. So I made a point to say something about this because this happened to me as a young supervisor out on the street. It's one of the ethical dilemmas that you would face as a police supervisor, and he did kind of remedy it by saying exactly what you just said. Well, there's a cell phone in the other hand, so we know it's not a cell phone in his hand. We know that he's seeing a pistol. The thing is, what are you helping or hurting by saying I don't know if it's real or not? I think you're helping, because what if it's Tamir Rice up there? You blow him away. You've already created like a hey, just so you know, I'm operating the best I can with limited circumstances.
No, but on the other side of that, it is real.
Oh, is it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so my scenario is a little bit different. We had, I show up at the scene and the call was, a guy had stuck a rifle out a window and was pointing it at the neighbors. And so, I pull up there. One of the deputies, by the way, who had his long gun out pointing it at the door was a Marine. Great guy, though. And so,
I like how it's great guy, though. Despite being a Marine, despite all his service to our country,
right, he wasn't
still a great guy.
So, yeah. So, so while I'm standing there supervising these three people who are like effectively negotiating, trying to get this guy to come out, somebody from behind me, the neighbor, and I don't know if it's the one that called, says, hey, are y'all talking about that rifle, or are y'all concerned about that rifle? And I'm like, of course we are. And he was like, I think it's a BB gun. So in my mind, in that moment of seconds that you have to make this decision, do you say, guys, that's probably a BB gun, and take the risk at it not being a BB gun?
No, because then later you're going to be telling a grieving widow, I'm sorry, I just really thought it was a BB gun.
Right. Or are you on the stand in the civil trial where the neighbor says, I specifically told that tall, goofy cop that it was a fucking BB gun. And he just looked at me and nodded, and he didn't do anything but let those deputies shoot that guy.
I would say, unfortunately, this is one of those situations where, like with Tamir Rice, he had a fake pistol in the playground. The only way to know for sure if a pistol is real or fake is to be pistol whipped by it. So I'm going to have the guy that got pistol whipped tell me how much it hurt, examine him for any wounds, see if he thought that it was a silly time.
Yeah. What if, and by the way, like, people just don't get rifle whipped anymore.
No. We need to bring back rifle whipping.
Yeah.
The suspect was located near a stairwell and given commands, but ran away. Officers used a 40mm launcher to try to get the suspect in custody, which had no effect. The 40mm launcher is a less lethal tool used by patrol officers which have received specialized training. The launcher discharges a foam projectile which can be used to de-escalate situations by the use of pain compliance.
Fuck yeah.
Here's the video from body-worn camera of that interaction.
Come on out, let's see your hands, man, right there. Hands out! Hands out now! Give me your hand! Show me your hand! Hands!
Bang.
Bang, bang.
Nope, just one bang.
The officers lost sight of the suspect and continued their search of the hotel. The suspect was seen in another stairwell holding the gun. He left the stairwell and pointed the gun at the officers. One officer responded by firing his duty weapon. Here's the body-worn camera video of that interaction.
Show me your hands.
Dang. 5.
Here is a different view that was captured by a surveillance camera in the stairwell. The suspect is holding a gun in his right hand and a cell phone and backpack in his left hand. The suspect.
Drew, did you know on the Cops drinking game, anytime you see a suspect without a shirt on, you can take a drink?
Did not know that.
Just letting you at home, if you're not watching, if you're listening, it's drinking time.
I'm glad you paused it. You're going to have to narrate this part because it's surveillance video. There's no sound.
I'll just narrate it. So there's a guy in a stairwell, like at a hotel.
That can be seen looking through a small window on the stairwell door. He
Goes
opens the
up.
door and points the gun down the hallway where officers are standing. This is when the officer involved shooting occurs.
Now he's running down the stairs and down some more. He went to brief landing. Now he's putting the gun further down the next set of stairs. I think he's the classic vertical pincher maneuver as officers are ascending and descending at his current location. He's on a cell phone. He's possibly calling for some sort of evac.
He may be calling 911.
He may be dialing 9. He probably fucking is. He probably is like, "Hey man, the cops are shooting at me," and the 911 dispatcher is like, "I know. I sent them to shoot at you."
Right,
Guys, suspects literally do call 911 and they'll say the police are trying to arrest them. And they're like, "We know that."
The suspect then ran to a laundry room on the second floor of the hotel and tried to hide from officers in a dryer. The suspect began pointing the gun to his own head. An officer discharged multiple less lethal stun bags at the suspect, causing him to comply.
Stun bags was my nickname in high school.
Dang.
Really?
Dang.
Really?
Dang.
Drop the gun. Drop the gun. Drop it.
Drop the gun.
Throw it out.
Drop it.
Throw the gun
Drop
out,
the
man.
gun. Drop the gun. Don't try to get out. Drop the gun.
Okay, it's we haven't seen it yet. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I know that there was a cacophony of noise there, listener. What you have just heard is police officers giving commands to drop the gun, and they're firing this 40 millimeter stun baton pain bag big time boy gun at him. He is armed, so it is okay for them to be shooting, but he is in a bit of a pickle, and they're just shooting him. He's like, really? And it's just like, just drop the fucking gun, dude. He's like, I'm not to spoil it, but he's like, I'm trying to get out. And they're just like, just drop the gun and we will fucking get you out of there. But he needs to drop the pistol if he's even able. Drew, any comments before we go to the denouement?
Yeah, this is quite the conundrum. He is in a dryer and he is in a very tight circle for them to shoot. And he's like, really? Really? Are you really hitting me with these beanbags? Really?
I want to address the elephant in the room right now because my sister has long harbored resentment towards me because I put her in the clothes dryer and turned it on. And by the way, the sound of a child inside a dryer is tremendous. Ka-thunk, bones and all that, turning a whole 360. She only went around a couple times before I stopped it and realized I've gone too far as a brother. However, the second time was entirely her fault. Let's go back to the video. He's hurting.
Drop it.
Just keep crawling out. Keep crawling out. Keep coming. Keep coming. No, don't reach back. Don't reach back. There you go. Just keep crawling out, dude.
No.
All right, lay
Crawl
down.
back to us.
Lay down. On your stomach, dude.
On your belly. On your belly.
He was taken into custody and transported to a local hospital for injuries caused by the less lethal projectiles. He was not
being
struck by
dried.
any bullets. The suspect was later released and booked into the Maricopa County Jail.
And nobody in the process and the pendency of this case called him a shrimpy wimp.
No, he came out of this without any wrinkles. Come on, that was great. You don't normally see this kind of criminal behavior inside a major modern American appliance. This asshole is pistol whipping security guards, running around inside a hotel, pointing pistols at people. His death warrant is signed. And then he's like, I'm going to hide inside this big clothes dryer that's probably big enough to do a whole set of, bedding in.
Comforters.
I would have just closed the door on him and just like given him the sister treatment, just giving him a few rounds. Like, you're not a big boy now, are you? And then,
Yeah, not even put it on delicate. Just like,
no, heavy duty. Would that, if it was delicate, would it be okay? But if it's on heavy duty, is that a violation of the 8th Amendment, Drew?
Well, yeah, that would be in the use of force matrix. Like,
Drew, the founders, the framers of the Constitution could never have guessed that we would have electronic appliances to dry our laundry. When they drafted the 8th Amendment, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, they had no idea that someday we could use forced air and electricity to almost eliminate the need for women altogether. They could never have guessed that.
Shall he hide in the tub with the washboard and the clothesline?
It's actually a misnomer that they had British accents. The British people made up that accent after we separated from them because they wanted to sound more hoity-toity. Why else would we have an American accent? It's because this is how British people talk. And then they realized they had a lot to they had lost a lot of colonies and they were feeling pretty inadequate about it. So they all started talking like they all were carrying a doily all the time. So
Devonshire.
The British accent is entirely made up. I just want that on the record here on Comm Center.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Okay, so that's all I have.
Show is over.
Yep. I can't believe
we're taking advice from people. We're just ending the show when it's fucking over. It's over. Go back to your homes. There's nothing to see here. We're done.
We're going to end the show before it even begins, I think.
Thank you. We're also, just a little bit longer today. Thanks for listening to the Comm Center today. Drew went full auto. I even jumped in there. I was mad as well. Anytime we're talking about pistol whipping or suspects inside dryers, there's not even really a lot to take away from that other than like we technically broke down a case and it was funny. Sometimes criminals are dumb. This is the stuff we were talking about last week, right? When I said that not everything is tragic and heartbreaking. Sometimes you could take a guy into custody. Everybody's okay except the security guard or whoever got pistol whipped, the U-Haul driver or whatever it was. And I just hope that this got made the local news so that when he's in the booking office and the other inmates are looking at him and they're like, hey, dude, you hid in a clothes dryer? You thought you'd get away from the cops? And they shot you with pain compliance and you wouldn't fucking drop a gun.
It smells like Downy and pepper.
Dude, you smell like Gain. What did you do?
Gain and loss.
You sound like Gain and being a loser.
Right.
Folks, watch us on YouTube. Hit like and subscribe. You can grow the channel that way. Don't you love us? Don't you want us to succeed? Don't you want to protect us from slavery? Grow the channel so that we can monetize our own self. Go over to YouTube. Watch great episodes of the Comm Center. You can do the same thing on Rumble. If you don't want Joe Biden controlling your brain and what you're allowed to think and feel, you could do that on Rumble, at least for now. Like I said on Apple, leave us a 5-star rating and review. I'm going to read a review if it works in just a minute, Drew. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Oh, we're also on Twitter. X is Comm now. Comm Center Pod. That's a great place where you can stream our content if you want to, or you can get involved with us over there. We don't have a lot of content going out on X yet, but at some point when I don't have nearly as many shows, we're going to be doing that. Coming next is the after show. I'm going to go ahead and read one of these, Drew. I was able to get one. Good. This is a 5-star rating and review from Southwestern Nassenach. Southwestern Sassenach. I think that's German. Great show. Drew and especially John tackle some hard subjects, but they do it in such a relatable way. Funny, heartwarming, and always bring attention to issues that concern dispatchers and first responders. Sir, by saying the phrase dispatchers and first responders, you've implied a disparity where none exists. Anyway, you have to be in the field to appreciate this podcast. I would say that's not necessarily true. We got a lot of people who are not in the field, like Abby, people who just have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I say that's the wheelhouse now. Like I'd rather go for the
I would say now that we're alienating police officers by calling them dirtbags for not supporting fellow police officers, soon this will be completely focused at civilians. I think civilians want to know how 911 works. I think Rescue 911 and Cops proved that back in the 80s, and we're kind of carrying on in their William Shatner stead. So, I appreciate the 5-star rating and review. We need more of those. Why? Because that's how the internet works for some reason. Please, if you're listening on Apple, please stop right now. Please pull over to the side of the road or just look away as you're driving. Just look down at your device and trust that everything's going to work out okay. Well, whatever. A 5-star. I mean, if you get hurt, I mean, it just further justifies the existence of 911 dispatcher. So look down from your device as you're driving. Leave a 5-star rating and review. And remember, this is where Carly comes in. Take all precautions for your safety. Now I cannot be sued.
Way to go. Well, I'm starting to think that this is the end of the show.
Yeah.